Good afternoon. I hope your Wednesday is going well. I'm Julie Broughton. It is 12:30. This is Take 6. We're so happy you're spending some time with us this afternoon. We did wake up very chilly once again today, but already, if you've been outside this afternoon, you know we're beginning that transition. So a warming trend is starting for us. We will have your full forecast for you coming up in just a few minutes. And also, if this weather has you in the mood to start decorating for the holidays, News 6's Emily McLeod is joining us, and she's bringing us a very cool story about a local interior designer who just got back from a dream assignment. She was part of the design team for the White House holiday decorations. So we'll talk to Emily about that in just a minute. But first, we want to get with our friend, Dr. Jim Clark, News 6 political analyst and UCF professor. Jim, we're kind of matching today. We both have our neutrals, our creams going on, but that's not why you're here. You're here because there's always big political news out of Florida, and the Associated Press citing multiple sources saying that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis could be looking at a position in President-elect Trump's administration, the Secretary of Defense. So what can you tell us about this?
Julie, you and I are going to be the only people not going to Washington. We're going to be awfully lonely here,
right?
In a few weeks. This is really just upending Florida politics. We've been talking about it now for weeks, but everything is changed within the last month in Florida politics.
Yeah, and so obviously President-elect Trump has a current nominee for this position, but there's a lot of questions about whether he could actually get Senate confirmation. So we're talking about the President-elect looking at some different alternatives for this.
Yeah, the Republicans have a majority, a 53-47 majority, but it only takes four Republicans saying, I don't like this nominee, to sink it. And so that's what happened with Matt Gaetz. A number of Republicans started lining up saying, no, I'm not going to support this guy. So the margin is awfully thin, even for Trump, who carries wide powers in the party.
Mm-hmm. And Governor DeSantis obviously has a lot of military experience and a lot of experience that would align well with a position like this.
He really does. And I think that this is kind of a surprise given the bad feelings that were left over between the two of them from the campaign in Iowa earlier this year, which really, as you know, got very nasty.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they were longtime allies, then rivals, and so now it looks like that is coming back again to the ally side.
I think so. Also, you have to wonder if there is a political deal in the works. Remember, the governor has a Senate appointment to make to replace Rubio, who's going to become Secretary of State. And it'll be interesting to see if the president-elect's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, is suddenly named to the United States Senate.
Wow. Like you said, Jim, we're going to be the only ones left here who don't get to go to Washington. So if the governor does take this new position or is confirmed in this new position, if all these reports hold true, what does that mean for leadership here in the state of Florida?
Wow. It means that we are getting a lieutenant governor for only the second time. During the Graham administration, he resigned early to go to the U.S. Senate. And for 3 days, the lieutenant governor became governor of Florida, was sworn in and everything. But this lieutenant governor is going to have 2 years to serve and will immediately emerge as the leading Republican candidate for governor in 2028. I'm sorry, 2026.
Okay. So as far as timeline of all of this, obviously we know, the Trump administration takes over in January 20th. How quickly will we know when everyone is in place?
I think within the next week or two, there are several controversial Trump appointees. His DEA name, who is the Hillsborough County sheriff, pulled out yesterday after some conservatives began bashing him. and his FBI director is extremely controversial. But I would think that even as early as today, we could see Governor DeSantis named Secretary of Defense.
And you mentioned several of these picks have been kind of controversial. Is this unusual, or do we typically see this in administrations when they're setting everyone up, or is it typically a smooth process?
Yeah, it's usually a smooth process. We saw this in the Clinton administration, where a couple of his appointees, if you'll remember, had not paid taxes and benefits for their housekeepers, and so they withdrew. But generally, it's smoother. One of the problems is that the president elect has not in the past been running these things through an FBI check. They're just suddenly named, and the FBI check might have turned up some of these more controversial things.
Yeah. All right, Jim, I heard a rumor that you're going to be joining us on the afternoon newscast today. Can you confirm or deny that rumor?
I will be joining you, and I heard a rumor that your next guest is going to come over and help me hang my Christmas lights.
Yes, yes, she is. We were actually just working that out. So we'll send her and Eric Von Aken over and we'll get you all set up.
I appreciate it. Have a great day.
All right, Jim, thank you so much. We are going to take a short break, and when we get back, we're going to talk to Emily McLeod and tell you about the interior designer who just got back from helping decorate the White House for the holidays. And we will, of course, have a check of your forecast. The weekend forecast, always very important. If you like warmer weather, I think you will like our extended outlook. So stay with us. We will be back in 2 minutes. It is 12:39. I'm Julie Broughton. Welcome back to Take Six. We'll have a check of that forecast for you in just a moment. So many of us started out very chilly again this morning, but we're already warming nicely, and that trend will continue for the next several days. As we mentioned, News 6's Emily McLeod is here. And Emily, I do think you have the coolest story, not just of the day, but that I've heard in a while. So today you are introducing us to a local interior designer who really is going to live out a long-time dream. She has applied for 19 years to be on the White House team for holiday decorating, and she just got back from helping spiff up the White House for the holidays.
Yep. Yeah. So her name is Lindsay Mattioni. She is a local interior designer, and some people here in Central Florida might already be familiar with her Christmas work, her tree trimming skills. And that's because last year she decorated a Barbie themed tree for the Orlando Museum of Art's Festival of Trees. And then this year, she decorated a Taylor Swift tree. So you see that up right now. It's all themed after the Eras tour. She started working on that back in September. So some of us here, we might already know who she is, might be familiar with some of the trees that she's done, but she was able to take her talents to DC this year. And Julie, like you mentioned, she has been applying for 19 years to have the opportunity to be able to go and decorate a tree for the White House to help out with this transformation. And so she got to work in the red room on the tree in there. And there she is at the bottom of the screen. She looks so cute, so festive in her houndstooth coat. And the presents at the bottom of the tree, she actually worked on the bows specifically. And she said it was a real art trying to tie those bows just perfectly, which I totally understand because I have like tried my hand at tying a pretty bow a time or two, and it can be a little bit difficult, but she clearly mastered it in the photo. So she decorated the tree, she did the bows at the bottom there. She also decorated mantles in the White House, several projects just throughout the week. She was there all week last week. She spent Thanksgiving up there. Her husband and daughter came up there. They did a Thanksgiving pizza, is what she said. So they didn't work on Thanksgiving, but they got Thanksgiving food on Friday. They were fed every day by the White House. Asked her how the food was. She said it was amazing. No surprise there, but I had to ask. I had to know, how was the food at the White House?
Right.
And so I think that, that's wonderful. But of course the food was good. She said they got to taste some of the first gingerbread cookies of the season while she was there. Just so many fun tidbits from Lindsay. So many things that I didn't know. And she said it was just such a treat getting to work with interior designers from all over the country. And she specifically worked with an interior designer from Atlanta and one from Miami. So some friends that are from close by, but she said the friendships that she made are just probably one of the biggest takeaways from the experience.
Yeah, that is an experience not a lot of people can identify with. And we were talking before we came on here today. It's always such a moment every year when the First Lady reveals the Christmas decor and all of that. And in my mind, and I know this is really ridiculous now that I say it out loud, in my mind,
Go ahead.
I picture the First Ladies just dragging the trees out, climbing the ladders. And then I'm like,
Placing the star on top.
So they don't, and you were saying that it is a team of hundreds, which is so obvious. But like I said, in my mind, they're doing their homes just like we're doing ours.
Right, exactly. Lindsay said that in addition to the designers, there's volunteers that come out, there's carpenters and electricians. And I don't know why hearing carpenters and electricians surprised me as much as it did, because if you look at the lights, if you look at the structures that are being made, who's making those? Obviously, they have to bring in a team of experts to come in and execute these ideas. So it was just really fascinating to hear the number of people, how long it took. And she also told us there's 87 trees this year throughout the White House. So obviously a really big undertaking, but an incredible team, a lot of talent to get that work done.
And one thing I thought was really interesting that you mentioned is that she is a history buff. And so it was even more special just to get to experience the White House as someone who really loves history.
Yeah, and I feel like in that moment I really related to her because I also really love history, and it just was so cool to hear her talk about the appreciation for walking the same halls as former presidents, as former first ladies, as dignitaries that have visited the White House, just the history that lives within the White House, and then being there to do something that she loves, something that she is so passionate about, which is decorating for Christmas and using her talents in that way. She said it was really, she was almost speechless when I asked her what that was like. She couldn't come up with the words to describe, as someone who loves history and as someone who loves to decorate for Christmas, those two things coming together, those two passions. I know that had to be really special for her. And she just was kind of speechless talking about it.
Well, just looking at those pictures of her by the tree and the red room, you can see the pure joy emanating from her. So I think that really does sum it up. Did she mention, is she even more in demand now here in Central Florida after adding this to her resume?
I bet she will be. Honestly, she does a lot of residential work. So if people need some help this holiday season, they should definitely give her a call because clearly she is excellent at what she does. She knows what she's doing. But she literally just got back this weekend. And so then she got back and then she came here to see us today. So it's been a whirlwind experience for her, but she just finished up this weekend. But I would imagine that she's going to get some additional calls after people see what she was able to do at the White House.
For sure. And I know you were in the studio while I was in the Weather Center working on some stuff, and she's giving us some tips on how to have a White House worthy tree that you'll be sharing with us.
Yeah, we are super lucky, and all of our News 6 viewers are really lucky because we asked Lindsay top 5 tips to make sure your Christmas tree is White House worthy. So we're going to have that up on clickorlando.com later today, and we're also going to have a little bit on that on our social media channels. So make sure you follow us on there because we'll be posting that information there. But she gives us 5 tips, and you might be surprised by some of the tips that she shares.
Okay.
So definitely tune in for that and look for that article later on clickorlando.com.
Fabulous. When can we see your
Yeah.
story today on TV?
Okay, and I have the answer for you this time.
Okay.
It's gonna air. It's gonna air at 5:30 on News 6, and then at 6:30 on our streaming newscast.
Wonderful. Emily, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the 5 tips to see if I have to give myself an F.
They're good. They're really good.
All right. Thank you, Emily.
Yeah, thanks, Julie.
All right, let's get a check of your forecast now. Like I said, a lot of us started out the day really chilly again, not quite as cool as we were yesterday. If you'll remember yesterday, Ocala, you started out in the 20s. Here's a look at our unofficial lows this morning. Ocala, you were under a freeze warning. You started out at 32 degrees. If you're in the Villages, your morning low was 35, 36 in Leesburg, 43 in Orlando, and 44 in Melbourne. Here's how we're doing right now. We're already warmer right now than we were for our afternoon highs yesterday. Right now, sitting at 64 in Orlando, 58 in Ocala. It is 67 in Cocoa Beach, and 65 right now in Cape Canaveral. We're still looking at winds out of the north, taking on a little bit more of a northeasterly component at times, and the winds have relaxed a little compared to what we saw yesterday. Still around 10 miles per hour or so, but yesterday we saw some pretty hefty gusts. That is not the case today. We're still looking at highs cooler than normal. Typically this time of year we're in the mid 70s. Most of us will not get out of the 60s today, although Melbourne you may top out right around 70. But then as we take you through the next several days, we're starting to see things improving, including tonight. Not quite as frosty tonight as we were this morning. 48 will be our overnight low in Kissimmee, 39 in Ocala, and 48 in New Smyrna Beach. Here's a look at the next 7 days. So for tomorrow, back in the 70s for our highs. Now, we are watching another front that will come through Thursday into Friday, bringing us just a little bit of a cool down with highs right around 69 on Friday. But then look this weekend, back in the low to mid 70s, 78 on Monday, and then 80 on Tuesday. We will talk much more about your full forecast coming up on News 6 at 4. If you have any questions or comments for us at Take 6, head to clickorlando.com/Take 6. Let us know what's on your mind. We're so happy you spent some time with us, and I'll see you at 4.